Corn School on RealAgriculture.com is brought to you by BASF and Pride Seeds.
Hi, I'm Bernard Tobin. I'm in the Corn School today down in Elgin County, catching up with BASF agronomist Ken Currah. Sir, how you doing?
I'm doing fantastic, Bern. She's a beautiful day in the cornfield.
Oh, yeah. And, hey, we want to get some combines rolling here. It's late October. Little slow getting going here. I guess the conversation really is about variability, and a lot of that variability comes from drought this summer.
Yeah, variability and you know, the impacts of drought, right? And that's variable whether it's in the same field or across different areas of the province. And really, we're standing here in Elgin County on kind of the dividing of where, if you go east and you go north, we started to run into some more significant drought impacts as you move up further east and north in the province. You move to the southwest of the province, definitely a lot less drought impact down there, and just a couple more timely rains that made a huge difference. But lots of variability introduced by drought.
Now, what are you seeing in this field, Ken? You got a couple of examples you want to show? Typical, I guess, drought symptoms, and what growers are struggling with this, you know, as we move in.
Yeah, so some of those drought stresses, what I kind of expected to see, are coming to fruition. I think the first thing, really important to do a standability check on your fields for growers. If you're waiting on custom operator, if you're waiting on drier corn, you know, that waiting for low 20s might not be advised right now. For instance, you know, this stalk here, you know, cut it open. Did the simple push test on it, right? It went over pretty easily, split it open, and you know, we can see that we've got some stalk cannibalization going on here due to that lack of fertility being up in the plant because of drought. Didn't have any water to move it. Mother Nature wants to make grain, and the ear is going to pull that from somewhere. So we see not so much disease, but stalk cannibalization. There's some weak stalks out there. You also see in the background behind us, we've got a lot of broken tops from the wind. That's always an indicator. This to me is a mid to late November look for corn. A little bit too early to be seeing broken tops. That's another indicator. And the third plant health factor to me, shanks are brittle. Yeah. So, you know, that attachment of the ear to the stalk, you know, it's not taking much of an effort to get those cobs off of the ear in those droughted fields. So third factor there, can't harvest an ear that's on the ground.
Let's talk about something else you've got in your hands there. Some indications of dawn in the crop. Where is it, and how do we think about it?
Again, variability. You know, variability is key. First started hearing about this in late September, when we always do, with some early market, early harvest corn. Traces of dawn under 2 ppm, so not too worrisome. But you know, the question is how is that there? We were so dry in July and you know, the first 3 weeks of August. Corn needs moist silks to pollinate, so there's moisture trapped. You know, we can see on, you know, those ears that are in here, and it's not very many ears in this field, but there's enough to make it noticeable and a concern where, you know, that ear husk due to drought got tightened up against the tip of the ear. They're still tight right now, so that moisture got trapped. Silk channel infection due to wet silks and drought effect. August was dry, and then September was pretty ideal conditions to blow up some of this ear mold and the associated vomitoxin and dawn that comes with it. So all of the things to harvest management when it comes to ear molds apply.
Yeah. And get it out of here. If you see it, get it out of here as early as you can.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, you know, looking at dawn in those pockets where we have dawn or have the ear molds for, you know, for the harvest of 2025, to me that's 95% environmental, right, due to drought. Do I want to start picking apart hybrids? Do I want to start picking apart crop management aspects? Some of the choices we can make as farmers. I wouldn't get too hung up on it this year, Bern. This is primarily an impact of drought and environment more than it is any management decisions a farmer can make. The best management decisions now are to go harvest it and get it out of the field if you're finding things like this.
Now, Ken, I hear a lot of growers, you know, waiting on moisture, waiting for, you know, their moisture to drop. What's happening here? I mean, why would we have high moisture in a crop, you know, that we've had so little moisture?
It's counterintuitive, right? Corn's a grass crop. And corn, you know, you want to waste a little bit of time surfing the internet. Search drought dormancy in corn, and you'll find quite a few interesting articles there. But really, to boil that right down, corn's a grass crop. Corn and plants in general, when they're under drought stress, corn closes up the stomata. It basically seals up, right? Metabolism slows to a crawl. What does your lawn do when it's dry this summer?
Goes
right?
to sleep.
Burns right off, goes into dormancy. It's not dead. It's just waiting for ideal conditions and moisture to fire up again. That's essentially what's happened in the corn, because we've seen some pretty intensely droughted corn on heavy clays, whether it's, you know, Prince Edward County, Napanee area, the Niagara Peninsula, right? That drought effect on clay, those corn crops shut right down. They never got to black layer before those couple of frosts 2 weeks ago, and now some moisture's hung up within them. Even the crops that got to black layer naturally, still, they're, you know, why are they behind? They're behind because they slowed down due to drought. Like, the plant just was not utilizing those high levels of sunlight that we were getting because it was under drought stress. So that's the explanation for the higher moistures, and hence the discussion on plant health issues, because now we're into that trade-off decision as a grower. Do I go pay the extra drying to get my, you know, insurance against plant health issues and losing some yield due to standability, brittle shanks, cob drop, etc. in some of those drought-stressed farms?
When you're in the combine, you know, from a weed control perspective, you know, what do you want to be looking for, as I say, as you're moving through corn?
Well, first of all, we're always highly focused on the perennials, right, in the fall. So we're in a cornfield, you know, let's say we came out of pasture or alfalfa recently, we might have some dandelion going on there. You know, if dandelion has been one of those problem weeds for you, that rosette has been protected from frost by the corn crop for the most part. Should be some plant material there that we can get chemical into, and we still have time to do it before we get froze down again for good. Still effective to spray with those proper higher rates of glyphosate and perhaps a Group 4 tank mix partner to help translocate that a little bit further. You know, we can look at weeds like Canada thistle and perennial south thistle as well. So the perennials are the first thing I look towards. The next thing I would look at would be water hemp. We have enough pockets of water hemp around. Water hemp moves mechanically, so it moves on equipment. So not just harvest, but tillage equipment. Probably a good year for growers that have water hemp in their area, or maybe in you know, they'll find it in a field as they're harvesting. Take good notes. Take good notes on which farms, you know, you find it in, obviously, but then where do you go with the equipment after that, whether it's harvest or tillage, because there's that risk of moving it around mechanically. That can help you greatly next spring if you start finding water hemp in fields, because we know water hemp, weed size and crop size really matter in terms of having, you know, good options to obtain good efficacy, so time count. So take notes as far as what order you go in with your harvest and with your tillage equipment. That could be a real benefit next spring.
Final thing, you know, is this a good opportunity actually to evaluate your weed control this year?
Always is. You know, harvest or, you know, tillage is your opportunity to evaluate your efficacy of your herbicide choices. Compare this to 2024. 2024, most of the province received lots of rainfall in the 6 to 8 weeks after application. You know, that helps get those herbicides breaking down. Sometimes too much. We would see a breakdown in late season residual. Contrast that to this year, 2025, dry in the 6 weeks after application. This is a great year to really evaluate the strengths of residuals. They should all be performing fairly well compared to 2024 as far as, you know, August and beyond, right, in terms of late season residuals. So we may not learn a whole lot there. That said, keep an eye on the ground, see what's there. It helps you make the right decisions for next year.
Great stuff, Ken. Appreciate the insights. Always great to have you on Corn School.
Absolutely. Thanks for the opportunity, Bern, and go Jays.
Hey!